Okay, hello internet people. I am here today to make another cocktail. Ingredients for cocktails. And I found a really good price on Dragonfruit today. So I'm going to revisit this because I don't know if I've actually had one here in Spain. Dragonfruit's a really interesting fruit because it really doesn't carry a lot of sweetness. It's good. The color is amazing. But as for the sweetness, it's really not there. So today I've decided that I'm going to mix it with a sweeter fruit, uva, or uva lila, or uva rojo, grapes, because they carry a lot of sweetness and it doesn't overpower the dragon fruit, so they complement each other. I'm also adding a tea. This was left over by a roommate, and it's very sweet, smoky, bitter, all at once. So I'm going to use this instead of water for my syrup. So we have that steeping over here. And yeah, I'm really excited because for me, I don't really get to work with a lot of ingredients that I don't know that well, and since I've been here in Spain, I've been trying to use ingredients that I haven't used in the past. So I'm really excited about this one today. I also have very little experience with dragon fruit other than, using it for color. So I'm really excited to see how the color turns out. One of the things about my cocktails is I really don't plan. I went to the grocery store today, I needed to get food, and I had no plan. So I just want to let you guys know out there that it's really easy to create things in your kitchen without knowing what you're doing. And you don't need a plan. You don't need really anything except for knowledge of how to work with the ingredients, which I'm here to help with. So I was at the mercado, which for me, it's so fun here because being from America, well, scratch that, being from the United States, I constantly would do all-in-one shopping. And they've kind of made it so that you don't shop anywhere else. You just get everything at the same store. You either go to Trader Joe's or you go to Ralph's or whatever Kroger store you have near you, or Fred Meyer or King Super or whatever it may be, Piggly Wiggly. But here is really different. They have a lot of different styles of grocers that will have everything, but then like my favorite one, I live in the center of Barcelona right now, and my favorite one is really close to my school, but it's also really close to a fruteria, and the fruteria here is specifically just fruit. They do carry, some seco dry goods. They carry some things that are, staples like eggs and olives and some sauces that you can cook with, like Romero. But for the most part, they are just produce. So it's kind of equivalent to what you would see in the States as like a farmer's market. So that is one of my favorite things, is that it's really, really fresh and it's really, really cheap. I got like all kinds of stuff today for €6. Also, I'm sipping today on my last video's beverage, the Virgin Paloma, or grapefruit soda, essentially, except I don't use bubbles or agua con gas. I use agua sin gas. I love it so much. So I like to use everything here. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to cut the shell. Now that I've got the meat out for the syrup, I'm going to also cut the shell into garnish pieces. So each spike is going to have its own little garnish. And that way I can make the glass look pretty. Granted, again, I haven't really worked with this fruit very much, so I really don't know exactly how to cut it, but it looks pretty good. It's kind of reminiscent of pineapple in the way that it has so many scales to it, but at the same time, it's really, really soft. I'm sure many of you are familiar watching this, but in case you're not, that's why I'm mentioning it. But yeah, so these will be my garnish. Now, the other thing is that I don't know as much as you should probably know for these videos. I have no idea if you can eat the scalp of the dragon fruit. So I normally would like candy the ingredients and make it to where you can kind of like nibble off of the garnish. But I don't know if you can eat this. So instead of candying it and making it enticing for you to eat the whole thing, I'm going to leave it raw because people know that the raw skin of a dragon fruit is probably not good to eat. So most garnishes should be edible. I mean, scratch that. The theory is that all garnishes should be edible. But that said, you know, people use pineapple fronds and you can't eat those. People use all kinds of stuff in culinary dishes that you also can't eat. So honestly, it's really up to the person who's creating the product, artiste, if you want to call it that. Okay, so now we're gonna move on. Right, I know that the long form videos aren't necessarily that popular, but I am really wanting to use my platform for more than just creation. I really believe firmly in the idea of sharing stories from behind the bar, sharing stories from life, sharing life in general. I think one of the things that technology has done has created a siphon of division among humans. And therefore we always judge people, you know, and I think one of the things about the service industry especially is that we get looked at as lesser people because we don't often, we make less money, we are considered low skilled, which if you ask the majority of people who haven't, whether or not they want to go behind a bar or could, they would probably say, no way, Jose. So that being said, I also want to mention the fact that the majority of the people that have taught me the most in the service industry are immigrants, people who came to the United States for whatever reason and ended up working in restaurants and usually in the kitchens, but also other places. Almost all of the Spanish words that I started with were culinary terms, hamburguesa, fresa, mantequilla, etc., etc. And that was because I was consistently taught by these folks about their culture, and it really got me excited about a lot of things. And now that I'm here in Spain as an immigrant myself, I am really excited to be sharing my version of existence with you folks, with the internet. So one of the things that's really important to me is I try to do this through a podcast, but right now I don't. Well, for a long time I haven't had the resources or the help because I work in the service industry, and so therefore it's very limited, and my resources have never been, and I'm just not a huge marketing person. I'm more of a creative person, so or a production person. I'm not great at putting these videos together. This is my computer right here, So I am very just starting somewhere. I've been told by the universe multiple times recently, by multiple different creators that I watch, that you just have to start. So here I am starting. One of the things that got me into what you're seeing me put together today was a job that I had in Portland. I'm not going to name the place or the person because of privacy, but it was a really popular bar, kind of saloon style. It really emphasized whiskey. We had a back bar that was almost as big as this house. It was incredible, and there was actually people who would find us on Reddit and ask us for specific whiskeys because you can't find them in other places. At this point, it is no longer standing. It went out of business. Well, it changed hands, so it's still in business, but not with the same back bar or anywhere close to the same concept. At the time that I worked there, it was like a it had originated as a saloon, and it was in a really old building, but at the time that I worked there, it was a vegan lesbian bar, essentially. And so we were a cocktail bar by day, and then we were kind of like a nightclub by night, which really, there was a customer at one point in time that I had sitting at my bar that legitimately looked at me and he's like, "This place is a bit confused, huh?" And I looked at him and I kind of just nodded. Granted, that said, it was a really fun place to be for everyone, even if you were there for dancing or for cocktails. It was really big, so it was really like the vibe was a bit off, specifically because it didn't have that cozy concept that you were expecting from a bar. But it was really, it was quite a vibe, and most of what I know chemistry-wise and flavor-wise comes from my time there. It absolutely was the first position that I had, which was, I mean, I didn't even know for many years. I'm from a ski town. My ski town is shots and beers. Shots and beers, shots and beers, shots and beers. I did not know. I knew how to make a Long Island iced tea. I knew how to make a Sex on the Beach. I knew all the disco cocktails, which are super popular here in Europe still, which I think is kind of hilarious. But I didn't know how to make a Last Word or a Boulevardier or what glass you put it in, or what specific ratios martinis are supposed to have, and how you're supposed to ask every guest exactly what they want in their martini. And at that place we actually used orange bitters in our martini, which I think is the best way to do a martini. But I also know that martini drinkers are specific, so I always ask. But that's the place that I learned all these things. That's the place that I learned the chemistry. That's the place that I learned the cocktail starts in the kitchen, in la cocina. It's really important to realize what goes into a cocktail, and that's why I do what I do now. Also, there's a lot of products that are on the market that have been on the market for many, many, many years, from many, many, many different countries, that are just full of nobody knows what. So one of my specialties, and one of the things that I kind of emphasize in my creation, is natural products and ingredients and things that grow out of the ground, and making things that are unique and not a template, because so much of bartending and cocktailing is specifically a template, but it doesn't have to be a template. You can make and I think that's one of the things that holds the industry back in a lot of ways, is that bartending shouldn't be about somebody else's recipe. It should be about your take on somebody else's recipe, or you should be able to create what you want. And I think that's why so much of the industry is a narrative of the creators and the owners and the managers and the people who put the bar programs together. You don't really hear that much about the newbie. Recently, because of just how the world is going. You're hearing more and more from the bottom tier, which I'm really happy about. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do with my podcast, was to just kind of collect stories with people who have worked in the dish pit, people who still work in the dish pit, people who are doing bar back positions, people who are supplement to the house, or maybe have only been there for 6 months, or didn't know that they wanted to be a food and beverage professional. When I started in this industry, I had zero expectation of staying in it, and I'm sure, just like many other people in the industry, I have looked over and over and over again for opportunities that make sense to change into. And over and over and over again, I've found myself coming back to this industry because my heart is in hospitality, and I love humans, genuinely love humans. And one of the things that hospitality grants you as a worker of hospitality, and also as a customer of hospitality, is the fact that you get an experience, a memory, and a journey. I call it a flavor journey that you just absolutely sometimes never forget. And that is, if you think about even those people that aren't in the industry or not surrounded by the industry, maybe you don't even drink. Think about your favorite vacation that you've ever taken. What is one of the first things that comes to your mind? Yeah, scuba diving, sure. Yeah, you probably did a zipline tour or something like that. But in between all of that, you've eaten something. And you've probably eaten something out somewhere at someone's restaurant, or even at someone's vineyard, or even at someone's house. And you've shared your life over those meals. We have to eat every day. And so every day we get this experience of learning about flavor and learning about each other over flavor, through flavor, within flavor, creating things. And then when you think about your childhood, usually you have some essence of remembrance of your elders having taught you how to make food. And if not, then they've at least shared food with you. You have to eat. So, and for those of you that don't have that, I'm here because I want to share this with people who need it the most. And so and also to share the sentiment of it, that not just to share it with people who need it the most, but also to bring up the concept that, like, it's never too late to have a meal together. It's never too late to explore flavor you haven't explored before. I've never put dragon fruit and grapes together, but I'm really excited about how this is going to come out. And as I was creating this and thinking about this, I decided that I'm going to also add a poquito amount of vino rioja. I had a bottle that I got through some of my classmates months ago, and it has been way too hot to drink red wine. Lo siento to the wine drinkers of Spain. I know there are some people out there that are gonna be like, what? It's always a good time to drink red wine. But for me, when it's hot and it's really hot, is too much. So I've decided, because you have a lot of sweet and a lot of bright going on in here, I also need to balance it with bitters. That's why I went with tea. So something a little bit bitter, and then something also bitter is the vino. So I'm gonna do los dos, both of them. Okay, so one more thing that I like to point out about my creation tactics is not only do I not have templates or recipes, but I also don't have specific ratios. There are two types of cooks in the world, two types of bartenders in the world. One type is your grandma, who or your mom. Well, sometimes grandma also had recipes that were very specific. So I think it also depends if you're baking. This is different. There's the bakers, and then there's the chemists. There's the chemists who are that they would scream at their screen right now that I don't have a scale in front of me, which I absolutely should. And if I was running a bar program, I absolutely would, because you absolutely have to use a scale for consistency. And if it's something that I'm wanting to recreate over and over and over again, then I would absolutely need to measure my ingredients and make sure they balance out appropriately and do it exactly the same every single time. Whereas this is more of a recipe and design creation concept, and I am not gonna stress it. I definitely don't believe that you have to be super scientific, especially when you're discovering flavor and working with creation. Again, if I were putting it on a menu, it's a little different. So I like to start, when I make a syrup for the first time, I like to just kind of use the ingredients, and there's a lot of wetness in these ingredients. So I like to put a lot of sugar to make it a syrup, because I like the thickness and consistency of it, and I don't like to add too much liquid. So that way you get more flavor, you get a little bit more of the, you get more flavor, but you also get like more richness. You don't have to use, it's more of a concentrate. You don't have to use so much. One of the things that I think is really important is that the flavor is able to be carried throughout the entire glass. So when we do this, I like to make it fuerte, strong and concentrated, and then you can add however much dilution you want on top of that. And that way you can make it to your liking, or I can make it to my liking. So normally I start with just 1 cup of sugar, but because I want this to be a little bit more strong, and I'm balancing it with stronger flavors, I'm gonna do 1.5. A rich syrup would be 2 to 1. This is a semi-rich syrup, so a semi-rich syrup is 1.5 to 1. So we're gonna go like that. Un poco de vino. And I'm really not gonna use a lot because this is more of a balance. I don't want it to take over. I don't want it to be, I don't want it to be a dominant flavor in the ingredients, but I figure grapes and wine, you can't go wrong. So we're gonna do just like a 1/4 cup of the vino. And we're gonna do the rest of this tea. All right, now we're gonna blend this up. One important thing with soft fruits, a lot of times when you make a syrup, you wanna melt it down and really cook the flavors into each other. But I've noticed recently that with soft fruits, I really don't like to kill the flavor, because with soft fruits, if you cook it too much, it's just too fragile. So I end up just blending this together really fiercely, straining out the extra ingredients. So that's how I'm going to do it today. Okay, hello again. I am here to put the cocktail together at this point. This could also be a great mocktail. I don't think that it would be that great of a mocktail because there are some people that can't have any alcohol at all, and I put a scotch of red wine in it. Granted, if you can drink a kombucha, you could drink a mocktail with this. That said, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in. So today I thought the entire time, I was like, I should do, it's dragon fruit, it's tropical, I should do rum. And then I thought again about it and I was like, well, it's pretty sweet. And I made it a semi-rich syrup. So I have this really amazing gin that is made here in Barcelona. Little free plug for Corpin because they've been so good to me. It is a, technically he considers it more of a Navidad or like a Christmas flavor or winter flavor. But for me, I think it goes really well with just like darker fruits. I used it with beets, it was amazing. So I feel like now with like the red wine combined, the spices in here are gonna be incredible. So one other thing that I really enjoy in a cocktail is the garnish. So I decided to use a sugar salt for this one. I have a mineral salt that I use in cooking. And so this time I am doing a sugar salt partial rim just to give it some extra journey and flavor. And I don't have any saline to put, well I do, but I don't want to put saline in here because I feel like the rim is going to be a good place for it. The flavors are quite complex already. So I think I'm just going to save the saline for the rim. So now that we've rimmed our glass, we're going to put that aside. And then I'm going with lime today because the bold flavors in the syrup are going to clash well with the lime. It's going to brighten it right back up. Bring that dragon fruit out some. Whereas lemon would work too, but I feel like today, maybe if I did rum, lemon, but for this it's gonna be lime. All right, and so that's a little over a half an ounce of lime. And then we're gonna do 0.75 of this. These are ounces, not milliliters. 0.75 ounces of our syrup. And then we're gonna do a full 2 ounces of the gin just because that's a typical build for a cocktail, and that's how we're gonna roll with it today. We're gonna clean as we go because that's what bartenders do when they're good at their jobs. And then we're gonna go ahead and shake her up. Now, one thing I probably can't read because it's so far about this syrup is I found out one of my favorite bands ever is going to be here in October, and they have an amazing song called Start Wearing Purple. So this is my Start Drinking Purple syrup, and that's an ode to Gogo Bordello for any fans out there. All right, today we're gonna double strain it into our mostly wine glass, but we're using it as a cocktail coupe today because we have wine in our syrup. And because I don't have an actual classic cocktail coupe here, so. Perfecto. And then in the video before, I talked about how I like to use the rest of the fruit for garnish. So I had this cute little umbrella. So there is our dragon fruit start wearing purple cocktail. No, start drinking purple cocktail. Salud, everyone. Okay. Salud. Time to give this beautiful girl a try. Yeah, that would do good with rum. This is really good too. Let's try it with the salt. Yeah, it does better with salt. So the next build I would add saline. It's complex, but it's still bright, which yay summer. Everyone's already ready for new season. Well, at least I am. For a new season, but summer's still here. Summer's still here, baby. You can taste the wine. I like the sugar salt, not just the salt, because it kind of adds to the fruity nature of the beverage. There's definitely depth. You can tell that there's tea in there. I am working with teas recently because I don't actually have any bitters, and bitters are very necessary to balance cocktails. So I think the tea is working really nicely. The Dragonfruit is definitely coming through. I feel like the grape could have been a little less, but that's also because I put wine in there. So yeah, that's really good, you guys. To another great cocktail. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Salud.